And I tell you this only to let you know that I have a background in business, finance, and economics. In 1994, I began my real estate career, which incidentally is 3 years prior to our present Commissioner of Revenue taking office for his first term. So you might say I have a 3-year head start on him in real estate. At that time, starting in 1994, I joined a local Century 21 office in Salem, Century 21 Young Realty in Salem, Century 21 Train. After being there a few years, I decided to go to a little more high-powered firm, which was Waldrop Realty in Salem. Some of you old-timers might remember that. Waldrop Realty was the boutique firm in Salem, where a lot of high-powered agents went. Little did I know at that time that Waldrop Realty was looking to merge with MKB Realtors. And we did merge in '99, and I have been there ever since. Also, since 1999, I took on the designation of broker. I know everybody here knows at least a handful of realtors. And the one thing that you will notice about realtors are a lot of acronyms after their names. You'll see GRI, CRS, what am I going to do now, and anything after the name of a realtor. The only one that really separates and elevates you in your profession is the designation of broker. One of the privileges of being a broker is that you're allowed to give what's called BPOs, or broker price opinions. And what that is basically determining market value of real estate, of property, for institutional and high net worth clients. I have done millions of dollars worth of BPOs in my career, some for institutional clients. My biggest client is no longer here. It was called Charter Federal Bank, savings and loan, later bought out by AmSouth, and later left the state of Virginia altogether. But I did all their REOs, or bank-owned properties. I did everything for them. Told the valuation, got them ready for market, and they relied exclusively on the valuation that I gave. I also have done so for high net worth clients over the years. Well, not only that, I've had a career on the board level. For 4 years, I was on the board of directors of the Roanoke Valley Association of Realtors, and I specialize in the MLS. I helped pick the vendor that we have today, and I helped design the system that we have, that we even use today. One of the other things I want to talk about right now with regards to real estate is that the reason I'm here today is because I'm seeking the nomination, the Republican nomination for that position. Because in my opinion, the real estate assessor's office in Roanoke City is broken. They are not in touch with the reality of assessments, and they're not in touch with the reality of what property values are. They're not putting these together with the reality of marking the market, the properties in Roanoke City, what I'm trying to say. I want to change that. I'm not here to pick a fight with anyone particularly, as few people really know what or how assessments are set up in Roanoke City. Most people think assessments are done by the Commissioner of Revenue for real estate. That is not so. Real estate assessments in Roanoke City are done by the real estate office, who fall under the Director of Finance, who fall under City Council. The real estate the Commissioner of Revenue only does personal property and business property assessments. I want to change that. And I'm not here really to pick a fight with City Council. It's not really their fault that this thing is broken, for it was done long before many of us were born. Back in the early 50s, there was power taken from the Commissioner of Revenue's office and given to City Council. But they have certainly enjoyed the privilege of what that brings them. I feel, and I think it's spelled out by the numbers, that there is an overreach of power, that there is too much power concentrated in too few hands. City Council now picks the assessment rate, picks who's going to get assessed, how they're going to get assessed, everything from soup to nuts with taxes, with no intervening by any public official, no checks and balances. Everything is in their corner, so to speak. The Office of Commissioner of Revenue was formed by our founding fathers to offer someone that is a public official elected by the people to step in and represent the people in the taxing of the citizenry. This has been eliminated and needs to be restored. So this is what I'm offering to do. If I'm elected as a Commissioner of Revenue, my first task will be to restore the office of Commissioner of Revenue, to put real estate assessments under the Office of Commissioner of Revenue and away from City Council. Believe me, if there's two almost hard fights to fight, these are them. One for Republican to win in Roanoke City, and the second is for that Republican to try to change something in the General Assembly. But I have fought in front of the General Assembly before. I have debated and written bills before the General Assembly. I know how to talk to them, I faced them, and this can be done. I believe the time is right now because the numbers are so inexplicably obvious that they're out of whack. If any of you who are property owners in Roanoke City have looked at your property values and your assessments in the last 4 years and not seen the numbers drop, I don't have to coach you, I don't have to pry numbers at you. You know for yourselves where you are. Only last year did the assessment office, for the first time in 40 years, drop assessments in Roanoke City. And the assessments they dropped were only in the northwest parts of town. And a few condominiums and PUDs that were in the southwest part of town, southwest part of the city. I have the numbers. I'm willing to take on a debate with anybody, anytime, any place. But the bottom line is we have been under a stealth tax, basically by Roanoke City for the last 40 years. Stop and think about that for a minute. 40 years ago, a lot of gray hairs I see here, that, like mine, have been around since 1972. If you all remember the Great Recession that we had in the late 70s, where we had 21% interest rates, wouldn't anybody here logically think that real estate valuation dropped during that time? Not in Roanoke City. And not for the first 3.5 years of the recession we've been in since 2007. Despite the remarks from the president of the Roanoke Valley Association of Realtors, Richard Limroff, who said in his opinion in the 3 years of the recession, first 3 years of the recession, Roanoke valuations have dropped 18 to 20%, doing up 2% in Roanoke City. And even though Dallas Powell here, who in his organization of real estate investors, the largest single holder of individual investors and landlords, close to 500 strong, I believe, Dallas, with millions of dollars worth of real estate, looking at each other and shaking their heads, knowing that we're paying way too high taxes and ad valorem taxes for real estate. We know it, but Roanoke City has turned a blind eye. And again, I am not here to really pick a battle with City Council. City Council has been very good to me. I have a cousin on City Council. My late faceless is fairly familiar. Ray Ferris is my first cousin. He's on City Council. Pardon? Okay. Ray Ferris is my cousin. David Bowers and I have served for years together in Catholic charities and faith-based charities, where we recognized outstanding citizenry and outstanding work with police, fire, and EMS. Court Rosen was instrumental in my being nominated and my position now in BZA. I'm not interested in picking a fight. This happened long before these guys were born. But the time is now to put it back where it needs to be. Time is now to put assessment back where it belongs in the Commissioner's office. I told you what I told you about myself to show that I have the background and the skill sets to do this, because it's going to be a heck of a transition. I can do this. And I believe that the Commissioner of Revenue now is vulnerable. He won by less than 400 votes in the last election. I believe I can get 400 more votes. But I need your help. I need you to help me motivate the Republican base. I need your help to try to get other people out to vote. I need help financially. I need help any way I can get it. And one thing I want you to remember is, throughout the history of the United States, the greatest battle cry has been no taxation without representation. That is exactly what we have in Roanoke now. We're being taxed by an entity that was not elected to tax us. And with the representative who was supposed to support and help us has been gutted and left to be nothing more than a glorified clerk. I want to change that. I want to bring it back to the people's office, elected by an officer elected by the people. I'm asking for your help, and I'm asking for that nomination to do so. Thank you, and God bless you. And if there's any other questions or anything, I turn the floor over to the chairman.
Questions? Anybody have questions?
If I
assessed at a higher value, does that mean your taxes go up?
Yes, the question was, if your property is assessed at a higher value, do your taxes go up? And the answer to that question is yes, because taxes are based as a dollar rate of assessment, of assessed value. So as your property goes up, so do your taxes.
Actually, that wasn't the question I
Oh,
meant to
sorry.
ask. If the value goes down, well, what are we talking about? I'm sorry.
If the question, maybe I can understand it. If the question about how taxes are raised are basically done by market conditions, it's supposed to be done by market conditions. If you're in a subdivision or an area where there are a fast-moving pace, we call quick turnover, and values are rising or falling, then that is reflective of how your property is assessed in value, how it is valued to the market, and then therefore, but the same rate of the same tax rate should be applied throughout the city. The only thing that changes is the value of your property, and that is based on market conditions where that property is, whether up or down.
But if they change the value of your property, does that mean it would be harder to sell at a higher rate?
Well, having sold real estate for over 20 years, I've been a 35-year real estate investor. I began in 1979 investing in real estate. I will tell you that the higher a price is for a property, the fewer and fewer buyers you have for it. There is no such thing as an absolute price for real estate. It's not like buying a suit. There was a price on it when I bought it. But in real estate, it's sort of like a pyramid. As you go up higher and higher, and you can get more dollars, theoretically, but you have fewer and fewer buyers who are willing to step up and put those dollars. So to answer your question, yes, the higher the value of real estate, the fewer and fewer buyers are on the market to purchase it.
Okay. John?
I was just going to point out that you might want to explain the difference between assessed value and appraised value. That might help understand.
Assessed value is a value that is put on a piece of property for the purpose of taxing, and it is somewhat regulated by by a tax authority in the state. Appraised value is done by a professional, and only an appraiser can give an appraised value. Like when I was talking about BPOs, it goes on appraisals. When you have an appraiser give a valuation, that's a professional who is trained to give evaluations. They usually have 3 methods of valuation when they give their appraisals. They have a market evaluation, they have a replacement cost evaluation, and they have another source of evaluation, which escapes me right now. But basically, they go into basically, they have a different purpose in why they evaluate.
So they don't pay any attention to the assessment?
I will tell you, having done many of them, a lot of, there's no respect for each other in this industry. I mean, appraisers sometimes will begin with an assessed value and then work off of it. Assessors sometimes look at appraisers and real estate information and then work off of that. But everybody has their own formula of how they do things. So they're not, there's no one that's king. And that's why you have different values. When you look at a property, you can have appraisal of one value, assessment of one value, and end up selling for a third value. Because, as I said before, there is no tag on the shirt for that.
Next question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any flyers and any information about you that I can hand to people?
Talking about like a palm card. My campaign is very new. We came together rather recently. I was asked to do this rather recently. We are now putting together a palm card. In fact, we have the sketches and graphics of the design. We have not actually gone into production yet, put them together. I apologize for that. What I can offer you today is I do have business